What has just been confirmed about Prince Edward is the kind of royal revelation palace walls were built to hide. For years, something deeply symbolic, deeply valuable, and deeply personal sat in the hands of King Charles III while whispers grew louder behind the scenes. It was never just about a title. It was about promises. It was about legacy. It was about whether the youngest son of Prince Philip would receive what many believed had always been meant for him. Now, the legal confirmations are out, the arrangements are exposed, and suddenly the polished image of royal unity looks dangerously cracked. Because once you see what Edward truly secured, nothing about this family looks simple anymore.
And it's very, very sad, but I have to say that the extraordinary tributes and the memories that everybody has had and been willing to share has been so fantastic, and it just goes to show.
To understand why this story feels explosive, you have to go back to 1947. A young naval officer named Philip Mountbatten married Queen Elizabeth II, and on that wedding day he was granted the title Duke of Edinburgh. For decades, Philip wore that title like armor. It became part of his identity, his work, his image, his legacy. But when he passed away in 2021, the title automatically moved to Charles. Then when Elizabeth died in 2022 and Charles became king, the title merged back into the crown. That should have been the clean ending, but it wasn't, because years earlier, the public had already been told that Edward would one day inherit that very title. People thought the matter was settled. It was not. It was paused, delayed, controlled, and perhaps used as leverage. Back in 1999, when Edward married Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, palace statements strongly suggested he would eventually become Duke of Edinburgh after Philip and the Queen were gone. That sounded like certainty, but inside royal circles, certainty often means nothing until signatures appear. As years passed, nothing happened. Then Philip died. Still nothing. Then the Queen died. Still silence. Why the delay? Why the hesitation? Why did a promise made so publicly suddenly move so slowly? Because according to repeated reports, Charles was never fully comfortable handing such a historic title to a younger brother further down the line of succession. What the public saw as sentiment, insiders saw as strategy. Then came March 10th, 2023, Edward's birthday. Suddenly, Buckingham Palace announced Charles had conferred the dukedom on him for life. For life. Those two words changed everything. On the surface, it looked generous. A brother honoring a brother. A king honoring his father's wishes. But the timing, the structure, the delay, all of it raised questions. Why 6 months after becoming king? Why only for Edward's lifetime? Why not hereditary like so many other royal titles? Because when this family gives, it often also controls. And then the real bombshell surfaced. Not the title, the property. While headlines obsessed over the dukedom, the true power move was quietly sitting in Surrey at Bagshot Park, a vast mansion, over 100 rooms, royal land, prime value. Edward and Sophie have lived there since 1999, but what legal records confirmed was far more shocking than residency. Edward secured a 150-year lease through a corporate arrangement, not a casual tenancy, not a symbolic occupancy, a century-and-a-half grip on one of the most valuable royal residences in the country. Suddenly, this stopped being a family story and became a wealth story. Originally, the lease terms were far smaller. Then came renovations. Millions were spent. Then in 2007, the lease was extended for 150 years, reportedly for $5 million, with only a nominal peppercorn rent afterward. That phrase sounds harmless. It isn't. It effectively means paying almost nothing in ongoing rent for an estate reportedly worth tens of millions. Read that again. Almost nothing. For royal land. For generations worth of control. And critics ask the obvious question, if ordinary commercial tenants could pay far more, why was this arrangement handed to Edward? Silence answered louder than words. But it gets even more dramatic. Reports say parts of the estate, including converted stables, were rented out to generate substantial annual income. So while the public was told to admire royal duty, a far less glamorous reality emerged, privileged access to valuable crown property potentially producing private revenue. Defenders called it standard leasing practice. Critics called it a royal sweetheart deal. And once lawyers confirmed the flexibility of the lease, including potential transfer or sale possibilities subject to conditions, the controversy exploded all over again. Because this was never merely a house. It was leverage disguised as residence. Meanwhile, another layer of tension simmered beneath everything. Prince Philip himself reportedly wanted Edward to carry on the Duke of Edinburgh legacy, especially because of Edward's deep commitment to the Duke of Edinburgh's award program. He had worked for it, represented it, built around it. Unlike many royal inheritances based only on birth order, this one had an argument rooted in service. That made Charles's delay look even more awkward. Was he resisting a brother or resisting his father's final wishes? The palace never framed it that way, but many observers did. And then comes the masterstroke hidden inside the arrangement. Edward's title is for life only, meaning his son James, Earl of Wessex, will not inherit the Duke of Edinburgh title. When Edward dies, it returns to the crown, which means the future king, likely Prince William, can reassign it. To whom? Many speculate eventually to Prince Louis. In one move, Charles appeared to honor Philip, reward Edward, avoid empowering a junior branch permanently, and reserve the prestige for the direct line later. Cold? Clever? Both? Perhaps the most unexpected twist is Edward himself. Once mocked, underestimated, dismissed as the forgotten prince, he now stands as one of the monarchy's most dependable operators. With Prince Harry gone from royal duties, Prince Andrew sidelined, and Charles facing health pressures, Edward and Sophie have quietly become essential. Tours, ceremonies, diplomacy, damage control, they show up while others generate headlines. No tantrums, no scandals, no dramatic exits, just work. And maybe that is the final irony in this whole saga. The prince once overlooked may have become the one they now need most. So did Charles do the right thing? Did he honor a father's wish or redesign it to suit his own long game? Did Edward win or accept a carefully limited prize? The documents are public. The structure is clear. The smiles are polished. But in royal stories, the most dangerous battles are the ones fought in silence. And this one may not be over yet. The deeper you look into this royal arrangement, the more it feels less like a family tribute and more like a chessboard where every smile hides a move. Because while the public celebrated Prince Edward finally receiving the title many believed was promised to him for decades, insiders saw something colder happening in real time. King Charles III did not simply hand over a gift. He handed over a version of the gift. That distinction matters. Edward became Duke of Edinburgh, yes, but only for life. No bloodline continuation. No permanent branch expansion. No chance for his son to inherit one of the crown's most prestigious names. It was reward with limits, honor with conditions, victory with an expiration date. And that is why some royal watchers insist this was never Edward's triumph alone. It was Charles proving that even when he gives, he remains firmly in control. Look at the pattern. For years, Charles was said to favor a slimmed-down monarchy, fewer titles, fewer working royals, tighter hierarchy, cleaner optics. Then suddenly he grants Edward the dukedom after months of hesitation. Why the reversal? Was it brotherly affection? Was it public pressure? Was it fear of looking like the son who ignored Prince Philip's wishes? Many believe it was a combination of all three, because denying Edward forever would have created a narrative Charles could not afford. The king who kept his father's title for himself while refusing the son Philip allegedly wanted to carry the legacy. That headline would have haunted the palace for years. So instead, Charles chose the cleaner solution, grant it now, but structure it laterally, not permanently. And Edward, to his credit, appears to have accepted the compromise without complaint. No leaks, no public frustration, no dramatic interviews, just the same quiet professionalism that has slowly rebuilt his image over the last 2 decades. That may be exactly why he won in the end. While louder royals collapsed under controversy, Edward became dependable. While others grabbed headlines, he collected trust. In royal institutions, trust is often more valuable than popularity. Charles needed people who would not embarrass the crown. Edward became one of the last safe pairs of hands available. That alone transformed him from overlooked younger son into strategic asset. Then comes the succession angle, perhaps the most calculating part of all. By making Edward's dukedom non-hereditary, Charles kept the title circulating back to the crown. That means the next generation can deploy it where useful. Most eyes turn to Prince William and eventually Prince Louis. Louis, as the youngest son of the future king, may one day need a major title that gives stature without threatening the line of succession. Duke of Edinburgh would fit perfectly. If that happens, historians may look back and realize Edward was not the final destination of this title at all. He was the bridge, a respectful holding pattern between Philip's era and William's future household. That interpretation also explains why Charles could finally say yes. He was never surrendering the title permanently, he was loaning it with ceremony. Edward receives dignity now. Philip's memory is honored now. Public criticism is neutralized now, but the asset returns later. It is the kind of solution institutions love. Emotional enough for headlines, technical enough for control. The monarchy survives on arrangements exactly like this. And what of Edward's children? James, Earl of Wessex, and Lady Louise Windsor were famously raised without aggressively using higher royal styling available to them. That decision was often praised as modern and grounded, but now it also looks practical. Their branch of the family was never being positioned for long-term elevation. They were being gently guided into a quieter lane while the core succession route remained protected. Soft language, hard reality. Yet through all the maneuvering, one uncomfortable truth remains. Edward may be the only person in this drama who actually earned sympathy. He waited patiently. He served consistently. He accepted limitations gracefully. He carried out duties others abandoned. He never weaponized family tension publicly. In a royal family often defined by ego clashes and media warfare, that restraint stands out, which is why some now say the once forgotten prince emerged as the most respectable royal of his generation, not because he was given the most, but because he demanded the least. Meanwhile, Charles faces a harsher reading. Admirers see a careful king balancing legacy, succession, and modernization. Critics see a master tactician who delayed justice until he could shape it to his own design. Both versions may be true. That is the genius and danger of monarchy. Symbolism lets opposite stories coexist. A loving gesture can also be a strategic containment plan. A family tribute can also be a succession maneuver. A brother's reward can also be a temporary loan. And that is why this story refuses to die. It is not really about one title or one house. It is about how power operates when wrapped in tradition. It is about promises made publicly but negotiated privately. It is about who waits, who decides, who benefits, and who smiles while doing it. Edward now has the title, the lease is confirmed, the role is elevated, but the crown kept the future, kept the reset button, and kept the final say. In royal history, that usually means the real winner is not the person receiving the honor, it is the person designing the terms. And somewhere behind palace doors, that next move may already be planned.